It's the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Tune in.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. If you have not already, please take a moment to subscribe and leave us a rating and review on whichever platform you're listening to this on. It helps us reach more people and also helps us to move up in the rankings. Also, if you're interested in joining the Bread Real Estate investing community, you can try it out for 1 week for just $1. You can go to blackrealestatedialogue.com or click the link in the show notes to gain access. Very excited about this interview today. Here with me, I have Alex Kamunyo out of San Antonio, Texas. Alex, thank you so much for joining the show. Truly appreciate you coming on, man.
Sam, my man, I appreciate you inviting me on here, man. The Bread Podcast. It's an honor to be on here, man. I appreciate you. Like I said, you got a dope platform, and I'm just happy to be a part of the conversation because there's been some really heavy hitters on this podcast. So I'm happy to come on here and also spread some of the game too. Definitely. I must be doing something right.
Definitely. You're the next heavy hitter.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. So take a moment, let the people know who you are, where you're from, all that good stuff.
Yeah, man. So my name is Alex, like Sam said. So I grew up in Houston for the most part, and I'm based in San Antonio now. So after, I grew up in Houston, kind of upper middle class in the suburbs of Houston. If anybody knows Houston, you know about Pearland. That's kind of where I grew up, and came to college at 18 in San Antonio. Went to the University of Texas, San Antonio. Graduated in 3.5 years, majoring in civil engineering. And then I started working January 2018, my day job. And, from that point, I instantly realized that I didn't want to do this for the rest of my life, being an engineer. Because the thing is, so right now I'm 25. I just turned 25 a couple months ago. And when I was in college, my senior year of college, I had an internship working at a civil engineer firm. And this was like, one of the top civil engineering companies, top engineering firms just in the world. And it was like something that was like on my list that I needed to do in college, was to get a great internship at one of the best companies. And I was able to do that my senior year. But it's so crazy because I started working, and that was my first real job. Like a job where it's yo, you clocking in and you got to, wear a uniform, or not a uniform, but you got to dress a certain way. I'd only had jobs where you get paid cash. So this was my first real job, W-2 and everything. So one thing that I always saw, it was just kind of there was always, I would go to the office, and there was this old man that was there, and he was 60 something years old. And he would always, be in the office. But the thing about it was in engineering, a lot of, depending on who you work for, depending on, if you're doing, depending on the type of work, you could work a lot of hours. So even as an intern, I felt like I was working a lot of hours, and it was, I realized it was dang, I really don't even enjoy really doing this. So it was kind of something that I just was doing because I knew I was going to make good money doing it. That was the only reason I wanted to become an engineer, just because I knew I could make good money. My only goal as a kid was just that I wanted to be rich and wealthy. That was my only goal ever. As you can make that sound how you want to make it sound, but that was my only goal at any point in my life, every point of my youth. And so, once I realized during that internship that I didn't want to do that, I kind of set the stage for what am I going to actually do. And that's when that first thought came to my head. So I started just researching how do rich people get rich? How do wealthy people get wealthy? And, I kept seeing two things. It was Robert Kiyosaki talking about, what he talks about with assets versus liabilities. And I kept seeing bigger pockets, real estate. And so it was always what is this bigger pockets? What is this bigger pockets? And so I just kept looking into it. And I started listening to a couple of podcasts, and I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad in my senior year of college. And I knew at that point, I was okay, cool. This is what I'm actually going to do. I don't know exactly when, but this is what I'm going to do. And so I said, I'm going to just finish out my last semester of college, which was this fall of 2017. And I said, January 2018, I'm going to start this. So I graduated, and I was, like I said, 2 weeks into that, I knew for sure that I was going to be out of here. Cause it's funny because that same old man that worked at the company I interned with, he actually started working at the other company that I was that I started my full-time job with after graduating. And he was like an old guy. And it was like, I was 21 at that time, and we would be like working super late. It would be like 7, 8 o'clock at night, and we'd be working.
Mhm.
And it was like, I would see, it'd be me, it'd be like another guy that might be in his, high 20s, another guy might be 40, and then this old man that'll be 60. And it's like, we'd all be there at 7, 8 o'clock. And it's like, I would look and I'm like, it's one thing for me to still be here because I'm 21 years old, right?
Right.
I'm going home and I'm chilling. Like, I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna go to the crib and I'm chilling. But it's like, I know y'all got families. I know there's other obligations y'all got. So for me, that's when it was like, yeah, I will not become that. Even by age 30, I don't even want to be here. So at that point, I set my goal to achieve financial freedom by age 28 through real estate investing. And, I'll kind of just fast forward a little bit to now. But from that point, I bought my first property that year through house hacking, duplex, really like a single family with a garage apartment. Bought another one the next year, flipped a house that year, bought another rental the next year, and then flipped like close to 10 houses since that time. And so now, I pretty much have set the goal to achieve financial freedom through my business, which I started last year, which we could talk about later, and then also through real estate investing. I said I wanted $10,000 a month in positive cash flow. So I said, cool, I need to get that by age 28. So fortunately, though, I will achieve financial freedom this year at age 25. So a few years earlier than I originally anticipated. So yeah, man, that's kind of a majority. I kind of, obviously I skipped around a lot, but that's a good portion of my story and how I got to where I am today.
Got you. Thanks so much for that introduction. So take us back to, it's pretty clear what drew you to real estate. Take us back to that first deal. How was that process like for you, just being new at investing? I'm not sure if you had anybody who could help you, but talk to us about that first deal and just how that all came together.
Yeah, man. So the biggest thing for me, and this is what I always try to tell people when you get into, because a lot of people see that, like, I have properties and I flip houses and they want to get in. And the thing I always tell them is that you got to get the education first. Like, it's not even saying a formal education, because there's really no formal real estate education unless you're going to go get a license, which you don't need to have to be an investor. You just gotta be able to talk the talk and know the game, right? How to analyze real estate deals, look at real estate deals, what ARV is, what comps are, what return on investment is, what AAR is, what IRR is, all those different things. You need to have some sort of grasp on that kind of stuff. So after I graduated college, I spent those 6 months before I ever bought that deal, podcasts and books. That's it. Like probably 100 to 200 Bigger Pockets podcasts. And I read like 3 of, Brandon Turner's books, Jay Scott's book on flipping houses, a whole bunch of stuff. So I felt like I got like an Ivy League education in real estate, like during that 6-month time period. So for me, that first deal was it was like, I was so confident and I was so ready for it. And it was honestly like nothing that could have happened that I felt like could have just like been a wrench in my plan. So it went really well, man. Like I said, it was a house hack. And this is the way I always encourage people to start getting into real estate, through house hacking, right? To eliminate your largest expense instead of trying to eliminate things like Netflix or coffee or whatever. Just attack the elephant in the room, which is your rent. I was paying $1,200 in rent. I bought a single family house, 3-bed, 2-bath, with a garage apartment. I live in a garage apartment, which I'm in right now, and I rent out the main house. And the main house this year is going to rent for $1,500, and I get to essentially live in here for free. The mortgage is only like $1,300, so I get to live in here for free. In fact, I cash flow technically, right? Obviously, after I cover utilities and expenses on that, it's pretty much break even, but I get to live in here for free. So you have to obviously include that in your return as well. So it's been amazing being here. I mean, it was a smoke. Like that was, I remember in that time, 2018, I was new to real estate, and you thought the market was hot at that point. Like it is nothing. That was almost a buyer's market compared to what it looks like today.
Yeah.
And so Yeah, man. That was that first deal though. It was a single family. It was pretty much move-in ready. All I did was do, paint flooring, paint the cabinets, and I just completely redid the garage apartment kind of to my liking. And then that was it, man. So it was a smoking hot deal, and it's a deal that has made me a lot of money and will make me a lot of money in the future. So
Got it. It's something you mentioned that I think is very important. So you could have lived in the larger space if you wanted to and rented out the garage apartment. Nobody would have blamed you for that. Talk to us about the reason that you decided to give that up and just have yourself in the smaller space, and rent out that larger space.
yeah, man. So one thing I really wish people would understand is the concept of profitability versus comfortability. Because typically in life, what I realized, and this is even from a young age, you can kind of just see it, but I didn't really put a word to it until I really got into business and real estate, is that typically when you choose things with short-term pleasure in mind, there's going to be long-term consequences, right? And so there's two extremes to the spectrum of comfortability versus profitability. On one side, you can be very comfortable, right? So when I graduated college, I had an engineer salary at 21 years old. So I was making great money at that time, especially here in South Texas, where things are relatively cheap compared to the rest of the country. I was living in an amazing, apartment in the best part of the city, paying $1,200 a month in rent for a one-bedroom apartment. And it was nice. I was enjoying it. It was very I mean, for some people in California hear that and be like, $1,200. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, especially if you see the apartment, but like that's a lot down here. So I was very comfortable there, but it was very unprofitable, right? So you got to give and take. So my whole thing with that whole reasoning for me to live in the garage apartment is because I know living in the garage apartment, I can live for free. In fact, make money living in a garage apartment. So for me, it was a no-brainer to just be able to come in here. It's no different than living in another apartment that I was already living in. I just got to customize it the way I want it. So I came in here and I did that, right? But the thing about that is, like, the younger you are, the more you got to lean on that profitability side, because the older you get, the more impractical it becomes to actually be on that profitability side. Because the older you get, now you have other obligations, you got family, you got kids. Your wife, your wife and your kids, they not gonna be wanting to, live with roommates most of the time. And I wouldn't want to put my wife and my kids in a situation where they have to feel uncomfortable in their own home. So the younger you are, man, I was 21 at that time, I'm 25 now. So it's like, why would you not sacrifice now so that you can benefit later in the future? And like I said, you can adjust where that spectrum is very, very wide, right? Even beyond what I did, right? I could have been more profitable than even what I'm doing now. I could have said, you know what? I'm gonna even rent out my garage. I'm gonna rent out the main house, and I'm gonna get a camper and put it in the backyard. Or I'm gonna put it in the driveway.
That's
right?
a fact.
Right. And so it could be, you can always, adjust where you want to be on that spectrum. For me, I said, I still I like living alone. I can still live for free, which is the goal. So I just customize it. I put, stainless steel appliances, granite counters, brand new floors, everything in the garage apartment to customize it so I could feel comfortable being here and still get to live for free. So that's the thing that people got to understand. It's like, sacrifice initially so that you could benefit long term. Because now when I move out of here and I'm ready to get into, my dream house, whatever the case may be, I'm going to rent this out, and boom, the property is now going to make me even more money because this side's going to be rented out. The biggest mistake that young people make, and most people in general, when they first are buying their first houses, they go try to buy their dream house initially. It's like, why are you trying to buy your dream house as your first house? Like, that is the worst. I think that's honestly second to buying a brand new car right out of school. That is probably the worst financial decision you can make in your 20s, is trying to buy your dream house too early, because it just doesn't make sense, man. Sacrifice while you still have the opportunity, because in the future you're gonna look back and wish, dang, I should have actually suffered a little bit back then, because now I don't have the opportunity to anymore. So
Yeah, I agree. I think delayed gratification is so important. It's not, and it doesn't have to mean your quality of life is so much worse. It just means, like, that big thing you want it's probably the best to just wait a little bit for it. The time is obviously up to you to determine, but I think generally speaking, just being able to delay that gratification, man, is you won't regret it. It won't feel good. It won't be easy in the moment, but in the long term, like when you finally, reach your goals or get to that house, in this
Yeah.
particular example, it'll all be worth it because you'll do it in a controlled manner, not on impulse, not on like how you feel now, and you end up with a mortgage that's unmanageable. So I think it's something for people to think about.
Right. And I challenge people now. The question I pose to people is like, by you trying to go out and get the biggest house you can get versus house hacking and even living with roommates or doing whatever case may be, what is motivating you to do that? Is it something that's like you just feel like you need to do it because you really want to, or is it because you want to show other people that, oh, I have this house or I have this car or whatever the case may be? So really, me, I don't care about showing out. I generally only had that nice apartment because I felt like I worked so hard during college. I was like, yo, I'm gonna get this because I just really like this apartment. I like this spot, I like this location. Cool. Then I got new information and found out, oh, I could live for free. I didn't know I could do that. I'll actually do that as opposed to living in this nice place because I value the opportunity cost of that situation. If I delay gratification now, I'm gonna be grateful for that in the future.
Definitely. So what was it like just being a landlord for the first time? Once you got people moved in and everything, like what was that experience like for you?
Man, so and this again, everything that happened to me, it really happened it was very smooth because I'm telling you, it goes back to the education. I was so knowledgeable in this. I honestly felt like there was nothing nobody could tell me I didn't already know. And that is obviously like a bad thing, but like for the most part, I like as a new real estate investor, I just felt so knowledgeable in everything. So I read Brandon Turner's book on managing rental properties. I listened to a bunch of podcast episodes on tenant management, property management. So I knew exactly what to be looking for with tenant screening. So my biggest things, the top 3 things I was really looking for was no evictions, right? 3 times the rent that they're on their income, and then also, a decent credit score, right? Those were the top 3 things I was looking for. Number 1 is no evictions. That's the absolute number 1 thing I would never tolerate. I would never accept anyone no evictions. So my whole thing was, whenever I would the thing is, most people, when they get into real estate, they see the first tenant or the second tenant, or they see someone apply. And just because they have the potential of money there, they'll accept anyone. I was like, no, I would have let the property keep sitting. Because one thing I learned from, listening and reading was that having a headache tenant is a lot worse than having a vacant property. So I would gladly pay my mortgage for a month or 2 months or 3 or 4 months if I have to, if that means waiting to get a good tenant. So for me, I screened the heck out of these people. And so I got really great tenants my first go around. And they, paid on time every time, never had any issues. The only things that happened was like, it was an older couple. So the older lady, she kind of like fell a few times on the property, and like, she actually like cracked her head open, one time on my driveway, and like ambulance had to come. It's like a whole situation. And that happened, like, she probably fell and bust her head like 3 or 4 times on this property. And it was just crazy because I was just kind of like, I hope she doesn't try to like say, I'm negligent or something like that on, for my property. But really, she was just like, I think she had like some balance issues or something like that. So she was just having, physical health issues that was like causing her to fall. But other than that, no issues whatsoever. And it's still to this day, I have had amazing tenants in all of my properties. Never had a missed rent payment, never had a, tenant not, paying, never had a tenant destroy anything, never had anything bad happen because I took the screening very, very seriously. I'll have an empty property before I put a full in the property. So that was, being a first time landlord could be scary, but I'm telling you, when you had a knowledge and you equipped with that knowledge about what to be looking for, it makes it a lot easier, man. I'm telling you.
Definitely. Love it. Love it. So it sounds like you learned a whole lot and were pretty prepared for the first deal. So how did your real estate investment evolve from that point? Like what happened next?
Yeah. So originally my goal was to, when I graduated college and I said I wanted financial freedom by age 20, I said, cool, I just want to get to $10,000 a month in passive cash flow. So, okay, that was really my first goal was I'm just going to get house hack one house every single year. Because, you just got to live in the property, then move out every year. And then, eventually you can accumulate a portfolio of properties, within, 5 to 10 years, a good amount of properties, small multifamily properties. You can have a good amount of units, enough to definitely quit your job and, live a certain way. But it got to a point, was like, after like year one, I was like, man, okay, I'll probably cash flow maybe like $250 a unit off of this house. So maybe $500 positive cash flow after all bills. I would need a lot of houses I would probably need maybe just 10 houses, maybe 10 duplexes to be able to like, leave my job, live decently. But I was like, I don't want to live decently. I want to live great. So I said, cool, I need like 10,000. 10,000 is a little better. So at that point, I said, how can I get $10,000 a month of cash flow? So I know, just based off of a rule of thumb in my experience, that I say one door can cash flow generally 200. We can, back then, it's not the case now, but in 2018, it was, so one door could cash flow $250 a month. So I know in order for me to get 10,000, I would need 50 doors. So it got to a point where I said, cool, if I want 50 doors, how would that look? It would be 25 duplexes, it'd be 50 single family houses, it'd be, a mixture of duplexes and triplexes, quadplexes, or it could be a apartment complex, right? So I said, honestly, the best thing, I would rather have an apartment complex over having 25 houses or 25 multifamily properties or 50 houses. I rather, because economies of scale, once you hit a certain amount of units, things become more efficient, right? Just based on the financial aspects, right? And then also, obviously, with property management, all your units under one roof versus having 50 units all over the 7th largest city in the country. That's a lot of logistics. I'm gonna have multiple different property managers. I would rather have one business under one roof. So I want 50 units. So I said, my goal now is to get apartment complex. That's what I said really like in 2019. So I said, in order to do that, there's a couple ways I can do that. I know really there's some creative financing ways to buy apartments, but generally speaking, you're gonna need some sort of cash. It doesn't need to be your cash, but you're gonna need cash. And that's why I know you can do deals with none of your own money. It's not that you can't buy real estate without money. Or it's not that how does it go? You can buy real estate without any of your money, or it might have to be someone else's money though. So I said, cool, I'll probably need like $1 million down or something like that. So I said, how can I get $1 million? It's either I'm gonna work my job and save $1 million, or I'm gonna, use real estate to get to $1 million. So I said, I can flip houses. And so flipping houses is what became the next step. So essentially what I did was I worked backwards from that. So I said, I need 50 units. In order to get 50 units, that's apartment complex, I need $1 million to put down, probably roughly. In order to get $1 million, I probably need to flip, 10 to 20 houses, and have, a good amount of profit off of each of those. So I said, now my goal has become, I just need to flip these houses to get to that point. So that's kind of the reason I stopped buying like small multifamilies completely and pretty much started flipping houses. And so flipped, pretty close to, I think like 7 or 8 properties since 2019. And so that kind of just became the strategy in that regard. Now I'm not really focused on so much on knowing I need to flip to get that $1 million, because I know about syndication. I know about, raising money, because I've raised so much money for the flips that I know, I can actually raise this money for the apartment complex instead of and just cut the middleman out essentially. So now that's kind of so we're still flipping, but mainly it's like, also looking at is like, if a good apartment complex deal comes around, then we'll be ready to pull the trigger on that as well. So that's kind of where we're at right now with that.
Love it. Love it. Talk to us about that first flip. It seems like your first buy and hold, you were pretty knowledgeable, you were ready for it. Was it the same way in flipping, where was there more that you didn't know heading into the process? Talk to us more about that.
Yeah. So that first flip, partnered up with somebody on that one. And that first flip, it honestly went pretty well. Not all of them have, but the first one went pretty well. So it was man, that was February 2019, and I think purchase was like 87. Rehab was like 30,000 or something, and then it sold for like 165. So we made like 35 gross, and it was like 20 something net on that one. So it was a good, good little deal that we did on that one. It was one thing I learned is that I know like my niche for flips, because one thing you got to understand is that when you're flipping houses, you got to understand the logistics of every property type, right? So I know that down here in South Texas, most people are looking to buy houses in the $250,000 price range max. At that time period, it's probably a little lower than 2 years ago because real estate was a lot different than it is today. So it was at that time probably around maybe 200,000 max in South Texas and San Antonio. So now I know that if we list a house below 200,000, it's gonna sell instantly. So that became pretty much what we started looking for. So that first deal was like right in that criteria. It's a single family house, and I also knew I like to buy in master plan neighborhoods. So essentially, neighborhoods in which, if you go right now and you just look at houses that are being built today, they're being built in master plan communities, and in 50 years, those are going to be great houses to flip, because they're still going to have the community aspect. Right now, obviously, they're terrible houses to flip because they're being sold at retail value. But in 50 years, when you can buy them at a discount because they're distressed for either due to seller distress or physical distress, they're going to be great houses because they're already in great locations.
Are you looking for a community of like-minded individuals and access to experts in real estate?
Yeah.
Are you interested in real estate but need more support and guidance?
You know who it is?
The Black Real Estate Dialogue presents the Real Estate Investing Community. No matter how much or how little real estate experience you have, we've created a community for you because your perspective is important. All right, tell me, where's the number one place where you can do Q&A with experienced guest speakers 2 times per month? How about unlimited access to past guest speakers' recordings? What about a private Slack channel to engage in daily discussion with everybody in the community to share resources and support each other? Head on over to blackrealestatedialogue.com. That's blackrealestatedialogue.com. It's the real estate investing community presented by the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Come join us today.
I try to avoid buying houses that are like really in like, just like if it's not like a neighborhood, right? You know what I'm saying? Like if you go to Google Street View and you look around the neighborhood, you can see like, oh, this is an established neighborhood. There's schools here. There's sidewalks here. People keep their lawns well kept. It's like an established neighborhood. So that's what I learned became my niche as far as flipping. And so that first deal, it hit all that criteria. And that was really another reason where that's why I just stuck with that criteria. This year, I kind of ventured out. I'm actually just listed a flip that was like 550,000, and that one has not even got offer yet. So that's why I know my criteria before was the right thing to do, because now I'm seeing I wanted to try it because the market was so hot. Probably gonna have to keep dropping the price a little bit until we get an offer on it. But I learned my criteria based off of just trial and error on different things. But that first deal, man, it was a good deal, and it gave me a lot of motivation. Probably got my head a little too pumped up because the next flip was a disaster.
Got you. Talk to us. How was before we talk about the next flip, when you find deals, do you look on the MLS or do you prefer off-market deals for your flips?
Yeah. So one thing I realized right off the bat was, when you're flipping houses, you have to obviously be buying at a discount. And typically what happens is, most of the houses on the MLS, most of them are move-in ready. There's no distress in most situations. So it's very hard to buy those properties at a good enough discount to actually even make money. So at that point, I saw that in 2018, really just like when I first started. So I never really ever looked on the MLS for properties. I've never even bought a property except like a house hack that was already pretty much move-in ready. I've never bought that off of the MLS. I've only bought my flips and bird deals and other small multifamily properties from wholesalers. So the reason I use wholesalers is because I know that what they do is a lot of work in order to source deals and find off-market deals. They do a lot of marketing. They spend a lot of money. They do a lot of things that I don't want to do at the end of the day, because I know we've tried to do a lot of that marketing stuff, sending direct mail. We've tried to ringless voicemail. We've tried text message campaigns. We tried a lot of stuff, and I know it is very it's one of those tasks that's like grueling and daunting, that in order to get a deal, you got to do that kind of stuff at volume. So I know I would much rather pay them their wholesale fee than me spend those marketing dollars and save myself the headache. So at that time, now it's a little harder to get deals from wholesalers because it's just like, it seems like there's no meat on the bones on any deal. But a couple years ago, and even still now, you can still definitely do it. You just it takes more. You gotta look at more deals. It's really like a funnel. The more deals you look at, and this is always the case, it's always going to be the case. If you want to get a deal, you have to look at how many deals are you actually looking at? How many deals are coming to your inbox? How many deals are you analyzing? How many deals are you putting offers in? If I ask you, if someone tells me, oh, they are trying to get a deal, but they can't get a deal, I'm gonna ask you, oh, how many offers have you put? Have you put any offers? How do you expect to get a deal if you haven't put any offers? Oh, okay. So you need to put offers. How do you put offers? You need to analyze deals, right? How do you get deals? How do you get to the point where you're analyzing deals? You need deals to come to you. How do you get deals to come to you? You need wholesalers. So that's why I teach my course. That's why I tell people, it's like, go to the wholesalers, get on their buyers list. They will gladly send you deals. Most of them are going to be trash, but it's a numbers game. You can still give them an offer. And that's the only way I've ever bought properties. Now we're trying to be a little more creative and, doing a little more off market marketing ourselves, just with some, more of those creative methods, like, online Google SEO and that kind of stuff. So we're trying different things right now just because it's a little harder right now, but definitely I always advocate off market deals if you're looking to, flip or get a BRRRR rental property. Only time I look on the market is for a house hack. That's it, honestly.
Got you. So the disaster, tell us about that flip and everything that happened with that one.
Yeah, so that one, man, so that was the first time that I kind of learned about really, I learned so many lessons. So that deal, it was a deal in which the contractor we used for the first property was pretty bad, but they still got the job done. So I was like, okay, that probably is not the contractor we're going to use, so we need to find another contractor. So the next contractor we got was it was this lady, and she had like, a crew and everything. And, she seemed very legitimate. Found her off Google, went out and did some rehab estimates with her. Everything was legitimate. Seemed like she knew what she was talking about. And we got this one property in our inbox, and it was like a 3-bed, 1-bath, 800 square foot house for like $45,000. And ARV was like 135 on it. So we brought the contractor out that we just found to go look at this property and to give us a rehab estimate. She said it would be $45,000. Meanwhile, the property needed pretty much everything. So it needed, like, it was a complete gut job. Like, literally, it had to be gutted out. Mm-hmm. And she said she could do it for $45,000. Foundation, everything. New beams, new windows, new drywall, new installation, HVAC, plumbing, everything for $45,000, and extend the property for $45,000. She couldn't do it for $45,000. Literally, as soon as we demoed the property, we saw, and this is what the first lesson I learned in real estate. You hear it all the time, but some things you don't learn until you experience them. Like, once you open up those walls in real estate, you're going to see a lot of things that you didn't account for and that you didn't know were going to be there once you're doing a rehab. And this was a gut rehab. Wow. The first rehab I did was I would say an advanced cosmetic rehab. So it was just like, flooring, paint, landscaping, countertops, appliances, bathtubs, those kinds of things. This one it needed everything. It was structural, it was mechanical, it was cosmetic, it was everything. So everything needed to get done. She said she could do it for 45. Literally, as soon as we ripped up the floor, the first thing we saw was that the foundation was a lot worse than we originally expected. She said she would be able to do it for $5,000. Turns out the foundation alone was going to be $30,000 to repair. So that instantly killed the deal. And so at this point, I had a lender on this deal. It was a hard money lender. And it was a guy lending out pretty much his own money that I found like off of Facebook or something. And he was like lending his own money. Oh no, actually I got him it was a recommendation. He was lending his own money, and I told him I'll never forget. Whenever we demoed that property and it turned out the rehab was going to be $30,000 more than we thought. I went to him and I was like, yeah, man, I don't know what to do. We're kind of like the rehab is going to be a lot more than we thought. I don't know what to do. Like, we're going to lose money. He was like, I'll never forget this. He was like, well, you better figure it out. That's your problem. And I was like, yo, this is nuts. I was legitimately scared because at this point, he had pretty much lended the rehab and he lent the purchase price on this property. So he lended probably close to $90,000. And we're going to need a lot more. And I told him, I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to do this. He was like, you better figure it out, because if you don't, I'm coming after you. And that scared me, man. That scared me to the point where it's like, I knew I had to figure it out. So at that, when your back's against the wall, you just do what you got to do to figure stuff out. So fortunately, we were able to sell this property and get somebody to buy it as a shell, literally as a shell, because we had already demoed it. They bought it for like, I don't even remember what they bought. I think they only bought it for the value of the lot, because that's pretty much all it was worth at that point, which is probably like maybe 20,000 or something. So we lost a good amount of money. We had to pretty much pay to sell it, but fortunately, it was enough to just be able to pay back the hard money lender all of his money and all that kind of stuff. So we were able to get out, and we only lost like 30,000, which is, we pretty much lost all the money we made on the first deal on the second deal. So yeah, man, that's how that second one went. So many lessons in that one. The biggest thing was, obviously, you need multiple rehab estimates. Unless you've been working with a contractor if this is your first time using a new contractor, you need at least 2 to 3 rehab estimates. Because just getting one and going with that, it's never going to be the case. You need another set of eyeballs to look at that property and to give another opinion, because someone else would have very easily saw that property and saw the foundation before we had even demoed it and knew that it's not going to be 45,000. And in hindsight, even if the foundation wasn't going to be 45, it was still going to be significantly more than 45,000, just because we were doing so many things. It was a gut rehab. If you're pretty much gutting a house and rebuilding it, it's going to at least be $100,000, at least. Even if it's a small 800 square foot house, it's going to be like $100,000. So that's pretty much, the biggest thing that I learned out of that deal. And, it was just getting multiple rehab estimates on whenever you're first time using a contractor. Now we have a contractor that we trust, and, he's done a few deals with us, and he's good. So we don't have to do that anymore. But when you're first starting off, you need multiple rehab estimates.
Got it. Man, so did you have to basically turn over every stone in order to pay this guy back?
Pretty much. So it was like, even finding a buyer for this property was tough, because it was in such a bad shape that like nobody wanted this property. And it was like everybody could see the ARV was only like 145 on this property in this area, because it wasn't a great area either. So it's like, you knew you would be building on this property. So if it cost me, $100 a square foot to build, and I'm going to, build something that's like 1,100 square feet, I'm going to be all in maybe $120,000. You don't want to do all that work for $15,000 profit. So nobody really wanted that property. Fortunately, the guy I partnered with on this deal, he had another company that was doing real estate, and they actually bought the property from us. So it kind of essentially became their problem. And that was the only way we got out of that deal. But that thing kept me up for a couple of days, because I was very nervous, because I had signed for that deal on my personal name. We didn't have the LLC at that time, so it was under my personal. All that liability was in my personal name. So that guy was going to literally sue me if we didn't pay it off. And he was honestly shocked that I was able to pay him off, because I remember when I paid him off, he was like, "Man, you did it!" And he was dumbfounded by the fact that like I was actually able to do it. He was like, "Man, you're gonna go far, man." Because a lot of people, they would have just threw in the towel, and they would have just said, "Oh well, I lost this guy's money." But one thing about me, and this is especially important when you're raising private money, which is what I do a lot of now, is like my name is a lot more important than making money. I'd rather lose $30,000 on a deal than soil my name, because word gets around, and I know I'll never do another deal with anybody again if I get to a point where I don't pay someone back. I'll drive Uber before I don't pay somebody back. I'm going to pick up a shift at, Circle K before I don't pay somebody back. I got to do what I got to do to make sure that I get people their money back, because they trusted you. So, that at the end of the day is when I get money from people, it's like a guarantee they're going to get their money back because I'm going to do whatever it takes. It's not even about if I'm going to make money. If I'm going to lose money, you're still going to make money. You're going to make your interest and you'll make your principal. So
definitely love it, man. Love it. Wow, that's quite a story. What I appreciate about that is, you talked about in the beginning how everything was pretty smoothly when you bought your first property. Things went pretty well at your first flip, but I think just hearing when things didn't go well is great because early in the show you mentioned to this point you flipped 10 or so houses. Now imagine if you just gave up after that second one.
Yeah,
we probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. So I think it's great that you were able to figure out how to pay this guy back his money somehow, and you didn't give up. You just took the lessons from that experience, and now you're able to tell people get multiple bids and other things to do, so that they don't have to experience the same thing. So I think it's great that you kept going even though you had that very stressful situation.
Yeah, man, and that's at the end of the day, the only time you fail is if you actually quit. Like even that is not a failure. Like most people will look at it as a failure, but you learn so much out of that, and it's like you get that under your belt. I was just happy to get another deal under my belt. It's just like, yo, I did another flip. I didn't make money, but I did another flip.
Yeah.
So, and my whole thing is like, yo, how many deals can I get under my belt? Just because it's kind of like, an objective. You want to be able to keep doing deals. You want to be able, even if you're losing, you don't want to ever stop doing deals, because once you stop doing deals, that means you're out the game. That means you quit. And that is not an option. So yeah, man. But like I said, the strategy shifted to now, apartments and those kind of things. So it looks different now. Things take a lot more time. There's a lot more that goes into it, but the goal is to always be doing deals.
Definitely. So what does the future look like? I know you mentioned apartment buildings. Tell us more about your progress towards that and just other plans you have for the future.
Yeah, man. So I'm kind of doing two things simultaneously right now. So last year, we started a podcast 2019, and Money Monopolizers podcast, and through that we brought on so many people and got exposed to so many different things that I was like, at one point I had shiny object syndrome, and like I saw so many different things and it's like, yo, I got to do this, I got to do this, got to do this. So like last year I didn't really even buy too much. Well, actually, I bought the most real estate that I ever bought last year, but I still did so many other things that I was like, I was trying to really figure out what my path and my niche was going to be. Because I knew one thing I knew about real estate was like, real estate is going to build your wealth long term. But I knew that in order for me to actually get to a lifestyle of $50,000 a month in passive income or whatever, it wouldn't just be through real estate. It would have to be through something else. And I knew, so for me, I tried so many different, I tried trucking last year. I actually just sold my truck a couple of days ago, like the semi truck. I got into the rental cars. I was doing stock options. I had vending machines, mobile homes, still have that, marketing company, all these different things I was trying. And one thing I did try that actually hit was the cleaning business. And so I started a cleaning business last year in August. And my goal with that pretty much became, well, I started it last August. Actually, it's going to be like a year in 2 days. And I hit $100,000 in revenue within 9 months. And now actually I just hit $200,000 in revenue last week in the business, all within the first year. So from that, I saw the picture. So now my goal and my strategy for building wealth is not just including real estate. So now it became, I'm using the business to give me financial freedom and give me lifestyle that I need, right? But I'm taking all the money from there and I'm buying real estate. Real estate is going to build the wealth long term. Real estate is always going to be the bay number one. Real estate is always going to be the foundation of everything. But as far as like lifestyle and cash flow, business money, it comes in a lot quicker than real estate money that you got to keep it 100, because the thing about real estate,
is fact, man.
Right. And I'm sure you can attest to this. Obviously, you got the platform, digital products, all those kinds of things. They hit different.
Man, I mean, this is a real estate show. Yeah. And real estate is great, but man, like what you get in real estate is fixed. Yeah. It's fixed. So it's like if your tenant pays $1,000 a month for 12 months, they're not going to pay a penny more.
Yep.
And the thing is, you could start a business, you can have a product, and if it hits, you could make tens of thousands of dollars much quicker than one or two properties.
Yeah.
And to your point, I think the hack is, man, if you could find a business idea that can generate money, you can park that in real estate.
That's how people become wealthy.
Yep.
Most of the, they use that stat about the millionaires and 90% having real estate. Most people don't become wealthy immediately through real estate. It's possible, and a lot of people have. But today, people that become wealthy have businesses, and they become they create generational wealth through real estate,
Exactly.
through those assets, right? Because like you said, at the end of the day, when you have a business, your customer base is a lot broader than just your localized area of the person that's interested in renting that property, right? When you have a rental property, you can only have max, I don't know, even if you have a 300 unit building, that's 300 customers every month. When I have a business, my cleaning business did 150 bookings this month. This was my biggest week this week. We had almost 50 bookings, and that's customers all over the city. That money is different. And so I say that to say, this is like, this is obviously nothing to dog. Real estate is always going to be the biggest, like the main thing after like the business pays for it, because the business is going to pay for the real estate at the end of the day, because the business can buy a real estate a lot more quickly than you can buy real estate working a 9 to 5, even using private money or even using creative methods. It's only so much you can get to. Like, the business is just going to help speed up that process. So for me, the strategy is now, I'm just trying to get to $50,000 a month passively from the business, taking a majority of that and putting it back into real estate in the form of apartment complexes primarily. And so I've been studying commercial real estate syndications, all those kinds of things, even still now, because when it comes to that point where the business is picking up, I'm gonna be ready to put the money in there, and it's gonna go like that, man. So that's kind of what the future looks like for me. But fortunately though, the business, and this just goes back to my point too. I hit financial freedom. I haven't really necessarily announced it, but I hit it this year, a few months ago, just from the business alone. So I was able to leave my job and pretty much essentially retire at 25 just from the business. So that's the goal, man, is continue to scale that and grow that and put that money back.
So you left your job?
Yep.
Oh, cool. When was that?
So it was earlier this year.
Oh, congrats, man. What was that last day like?
So for me, it was we just say it wasn't necessarily my choice to leave at that time, but I kind of got pushed off the ledge. So, obviously with COVID and all that kind of stuff, there was a bunch of things going on. So, yeah, man, for me, it kind of got to a point where it's like, I was not necessarily ready to leave, but, the company, they make their own decisions. They're a business too. They got to do what they got to do. So, I am just, at the end of the day, when you're an employee, you don't own your job. There's no such thing as job security. There's a position security. That position will always be there, but your job in that position will not always be there. So that is kind of, how it happened for me. So it wasn't as like grandiose as I would like it to be, like, oh, here's my 2 weeks notice.
Yeah.
I'm out of here, whatever the case may be. But for me, it was kind of just like, I'm stepping out on my own. So, but all that extra time, it just pretty much allowed me to scale the business. So the business has like picked up significantly over the last 3 months. I mean, we did 100,000 and over 100,000 in the last 3 months. So, and I'm reinvesting everything back into the business. So, and again, it just goes back to that first point. I'm house hacking. My expenses per month are less than $1,000. So I didn't need the job income. It wasn't something I needed. In fact, the time is more valuable than that job income, because it allowed me to take the business to the next level. So yeah, man, to answer your question though, that's how it kind of went.
That's awesome, man. Very, very awesome.
Appreciate
can you talk to us about, so you talked about the podcast, you talked about the cleaning business. Are there any other products or business things you have going on right now?
Yeah. So my, a lot of, when I started like doing the podcast and all this kind of stuff, really just like putting the stuff out there, I saw that it was really easy to get, it wasn't easy, but it was possible to do deals with none of your own money. So I started raising private money. And to this point, I've raised like almost $500,000 in private money to do a lot of the flips and deals that we've done. Primarily just by talking about stuff and just networking with different people. So I put together a course showing people how to actually buy deals with none of their own money. And it's, it's pretty straightforward course. It's like 8 hours of content in there, video content. And it pretty much walks you through everything A to Z about acquiring your first rental property or flip using none of your own money. And the strategies I use to do that, using, the BRRRR strategy, getting, perfect 100% BRRRRs, doing flips using private money, hard money. And if you don't even have to use, I show you how to do it without using private money. So if you only want to use hard money, because private money is relationship-based lending, hard money is just institutional lending. So you can do these deals with, I'm not going to say terrible credit, but you don't have to have perfect credit like a lot of people think to get, a flip under your belt. Having a rental property, getting a rental property might be a different story. You're going to have better credit to get a rental property, but you can get a flip and hit 50,000 with having terrible credit. A lot of people don't know that. It's just about having the right information, using the right strategy. So I show a lot of that in my course. I teach people how to actually do that. So if you're interested in that, then people could definitely check that out in the link in my bio on Instagram.
Definitely. We'll definitely make sure we have that in the show notes as well. Man, this has been a dope interview. I'm just thinking about when you had that moment and you're like, I don't want to be like this. With all due respect, I don't want my life to mirror this person who's 60 something years old and still here 7, 8 at night when they could be with their family, when they could be enjoying some recreation and just enjoying life. And it's very interesting because it seems like that was a turning point for you. And from that point, you just immersed yourself for about 6 months. You learned everything you could. You house hacked. You put yourself in the garage unit, then started flipping and other businesses and things kind of took off from there. And now, you're in a position where you're just able to continue to grow, continue to help people, and just work towards the lifestyle that you want. So, I think it's a very inspirational story, very relatable story that I know our listeners will get a whole lot out of.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate this. Has been an honor to be on here. So, and I know, man, you killing it in the game. The podcast is super dope. Especially, just being able to create this community for Black people too is dope, man. And I know a lot of people can, definitely relate and they enjoy listening to this. There definitely wasn't this when I started listening to podcasts in 2018. I'll tell you, on Bigger Pockets, it was probably only like 2 Black people out of all the hundreds of podcasts that I listened to from Bigger Pockets. And I went back to like the beginning. There was not a lot of Black people on here. So to have a platform dedicated to that, man, is dope, man. And it was such, the fact that you saw that need and you created something for that, it's crazy, man. You were able to grow and blow up off of that and build a business off of that I'm sure is, really successful. So shout out to you, man. I appreciate you for bringing me on here. This has been a super dope conversation, bro.
I appreciate that. Any last words that you want to leave with the listeners? And also, please let them know where they could follow you, where they could access all your resources. And of course, we'll have all those in the show notes.
Yeah. The biggest thing I'll say is, one thing that I learned this year was about focus in terms of like having, because I told you last year I had like 18 million businesses. So I liquidated mostly everything this year except for the cleaning business and real estate. That's all I'm focused on. And that's why I've been able to scale them so much this year, is because I eliminated everything else, because everything else becomes a distraction. Once you realize, in order to actually become wealthy people don't have 15 businesses starting off. Most people that become wealthy that are known for something, they find one thing that hits, they stick to it, they make money in there, and they put it into long-term assets like real estate, stocks, cryptocurrency, whatever you want to put it in. I prefer real estate. But at the end of the day, focus on something. I'm not saying not like whatever you pick initially is what you have to do forever, but try a few different things, but pick something that you like, something that is you've seen success in. Pick something and stick with it. Because at the end of the day, that's what's really going to, allow you to scale and get financial freedom and get wealthy. So that is where I would leave with y'all. If y'all want to, find out more about me, definitely check out our podcast. It's called Money Monopolizers. Find it on Instagram, MoneyMonopolizers. You can find it on Instagram or anywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or check me out on my personal Instagram page at Kamunyo, Kamunyo. Hit me up, if you DM me if you got any questions. And I got the course as well in there, so you could definitely check that out if you are interested in learning how to acquire properties with none of your own money.
Love it, man. Thank you so much for joining the show tonight. Truly appreciate it. I'm looking forward to putting this out.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate you.
Definitely. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening to another episode of the Black Real Estate Dialogue podcast. If you have not already, please take a moment to subscribe, leave us a rating and review. It'll help us out a lot, help us spread this message to the world. So thank you in advance for helping us in that way. And also, if you want to join the Bread Real Estate Investing community, you can get started for just $1 for your first week. Check out the content. If it's a good fit, feel free to continue. If it's not a good fit, you can cancel at any time. And we'll also be having Alex as a guest speaker on there, hopefully very soon. Thank you all so much. I look forward to hearing from you all soon. Hi, everyone. Sam here from the Black Real Estate Dialogue. Make sure to hit that notification bell and that subscribe button and to visit us at blackrealestatedialogue.com.